All
Do I see a
righty.
little item on your side that says it's
Yes,
recording? Okay,
I do.
very good.
So, Donnie, this is your session. And from the last time you reviewed with me your, oh, what is it called again? The client intake form. That's what
Oh,
it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so I was just going to review back with you some of the notes that I took,
Mhm.
and just to see if things have changed, if there's anything that you would like with our sessions over the next 3 months. And
Okay.
then today you can let me know what you would like to focus on. How does that?
Sounds fine.
Okay, perfect. So what you had mentioned to me is fear of your back debilitating you, especially when working with clients or doing presentations. That's a real concern. So the back pain, limiting beliefs of I can't do it. If I can't do it 100%, why start? Not being the income earner is a big concern for you, and not feeling good enough. Having lack of confidence, depression, procrastination, wanting somebody to help you to be accountable. So far, so good.
Yes.
Okay. And you have a real desire uh, you have a desire to help people and to look at things from a different perspective. You do have a Catholic background, as I do, and that comes with a whole different belief system as well. So this is like riding on a bike, where we need to practice and build our self-confidence, and to know that we can just get right back on that bike. If we happen to fall off, we just get right back up, and that's what's going to help us to build our confidence, and help us to be more accountable to ourselves, and to meet the goals and objectives that we want. Also, what I took from your session, your intake form, is that right now you feel like you're in a ditch, but that you do feel that you do have a way, that there are ways out, and that coaching would really help you to um, find out what those many different ways are, just to get right back up on that road, and let's do it, speed up, and find out our goals and your goals and objectives, and go from there.
Yeah.
um, that you're very passionate. You are a trainer and a speaker. You love helping people. You love to learn. um, Taking on this coaching course is your passion, your following, and it's just going to help you to be even a more effective listener, a more effective communicator. You really embrace the mind valley. You have a strong faith, family, and friends, and you're a very humble man. Even though you're a military man who has been taught not to have feelings, I feel that you are very sensitive and thoughtful and caring, and it's now just to kind of marry them together. Um, uh, so one of the things I got is that I found that you were really focusing on that you couldn't do a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
and in these coaching sessions, we can look at what can you do, what are the many things that you're already doing. um, I always think of someone who was in a really bad car accident, was fully mobile before, and now they're in a wheelchair. And, you know, they can look at going, oh my God, look at everything I've lost. Or they can look at it and say, wow, look at all of the things that I can do that people are fully mobile can't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's changing our perspective of that. Um, we talked about your children. Really, what came up many times was feeling of a failure of not being able to be the income earner and support the family. Um, and then hopefully the goal would be to change the mindset from lack, depression, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, feel a failure, to being more resourceful, realizing that you are good enough, that you are worthy, and to look at like, what's the worst thing that can happen if we try something new? Because you talked about your businesses where you've tried it and you didn't succeed and you felt like a failure. And it's like, what were the things that you did learn to help you to be where you are today, that you are resourceful, and when you find that right fit, you're just going to blow everything out of the water and everything's going to come to fruition. You talked about getting out of debt, sorry, earning a great income so that your wife can retire, and you'd like to become a philanthropist. So not just giving your time, but also giving your money to a really good cause. And then when you're stuck in a situation during our coaching calls, you would like me to remind you of your vision of making a difference, adding value, that you want to be known in the community as a coach, a trainer, a speaker, that they need somebody, you're their go-to, who's really going to fill the gap and bring value and make a difference. And that you want to be a good listener, to reflect back, acknowledge, and check in. How does that sound?
Sounds accurate. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So Donnie, what would you like to talk about today?
I think if I had to nail it down, if I had to boil it down to the thing that is probably keeping me back, and it's just really from getting started. You know, I just have a fear of getting started. Once I get into it, I think it'll progress quickly. And I think I mentioned before that I think I have probably subtly developed this, you know, this systematic way of doing things where I feel like if I, you know, through some of the business failures that I've had in the past, I think I've almost developed a, well, if I don't try, then I can't fail. You can only really fail at something that you try to do. And so I think I've got a little bit of a wall there that's keeping me from starting. But I think my biggest problem is just, you know, the fear of getting started. So there's a block. I'm not exactly sure what the block is. The back probably has something to do with it, if not a lot to do with it. But you know, I'm not even sure that that's completely it. I think some of it may go back to the times in the past where I was really fired up about something and then just, you know, didn't follow through. I think there was the fear of contacting people, fear of rejection, possibly fear of people telling me no, and that I just didn't have the, you know, a strong enough why or desire to push through that. That's probably even going to be more so now as I venture into a, you know, business occupation that I haven't been in before. And, you know, I'm 58, you know, so it may be a little bit more difficult to do that going forward than it would be 20 years ago. And then, you know, that may not necessarily even be the case, you know. There could be, the opposite could be true. I probably have a lot more to offer than I think, but I've been out of the corporate world for 22 years. And so just being out of that for a while, I guess there's a little bit of the fear. And until I get more of the knowledge of going through these experiences and learning, you know, what AJ is teaching us in this program, I think I think there's a fear component and I think there's a lack of confidence component. And
Okay.
they're both probably not reality. And I know that, but unpacking that or making myself truly understand that probably is where some of the obstacle is.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say, Donnie, is that this is new territory, and because of past situations, you're concerned about the fear of failure and it rearing its head up. What I really heard you say, though, and I commend you for this, is you kind of answered your own question, kind of in a way, is that maybe I didn't have a big enough why. So give me a time, Donnie, where you did something where you did have a big enough why. And it doesn't have to be a big project. It could be something to do with your family, your children, or in the military where, you know, you were given a plan, or you were told to do something, you created a plan, you did the plan, you executed it, and it was successful.
Golly, there's plenty of examples in the military, but I'm not sure I need to use any of that because that's all, yeah, that's not going to apply anymore. But when I was in the military, it was just game on all the time. So I never had to get, I never, that's a different kind of fear there, getting shot or whatever, or dying. That's a little bit different than the fear of maybe approaching somebody about a sale, and maybe there's some things that can be taken from one to the other, but, I can remember, it's been 2 decades since I've been in corporate America, but, I can remember having become a trainer at a computer company, learned the program. I wasn't the one selling it. I just had to go all around the country and install the system and train the people on the system. So there was a sense of comfort that I knew what I was talking about. I didn't have to worry about selling anything because the sale had already taken place. I was on the implementation and training side of it. And, this happened all the time, 15, 20 times a year, probably, maybe even more than that I'd go to a client and train them and install the system for them. I think back of that was the full confidence that I knew what I was doing. They didn't know the system as well as I did. I was the expert. I had interpersonal skills. I could talk. I could, train. So all that came easy because most of that just kind of came naturally to me through sports and military anyway. The only thing that was different was I just had to learn the system. Once I learned the system, it was easy. And I think I mentioned to you before that, there were times when it was so much fun that I would jokingly tell some of my coworkers, I'm like, man, they're paying us to do this. I mean, it was a young company. It was a privately owned company. Everybody was about the same age and we just worked our butts off and had a great time. And it wasn't easy, but once you learn the system, you didn't have the fear of probably what I'm going through now. There's a lot of unknown now. There was no unknown back then, after a couple of months and, after the first couple of clients, I'm sure the first 5 clients weren't the best ones, and they weren't the easiest ones, but I still knew more than they did, and so through a pretty quick ramp up period, maybe 6 months or so, it was off. That's maybe one example. And I'm sure there's plenty of examples in the military. My last unit was kind of an example. It was a high level unit. And I only stayed in that unit about a year before I retired. But it was a unit where we planned big major operations. And so it was joint. What joint means in the military is that you're working with all the different services. So as opposed to a unit 10 years ago where it was just me and my Army people. Now I'm working with Marines, Air Force, Navy, some civilians.
Okay.
Terminology is different. And I was getting to a level that I had never been at before, a strategic joint level where, you're talking about 2 and 3-star general type headquarters. And so although I knew a lot and had a lot of experience, I was being broadened in the sense that I was coming into a world where I was no longer the expert, and it was going to take me a long time, or it was going to take a while to get up to speed.
Okay.
And unfortunately, because of COVID, and my retirement, that never really came to fruition. So that's an example of maybe kind of halfway between what you're asking about. That one didn't quite succeed because I never finished it. But that would have been a good example of having, and I have no I have no doubt that I would have done fine in that. It just would have taken some time to learn the new things. And then, in a year or so, I would have become, the expert in that arena where I walked into that not being, I was like the new guy. So um, I'm not sure if that's clearly what you were asking about.
Absolutely. So what I hear you say in both situations, the one where you were um, you didn't have to look for the sale, you had to learn the system.
Mm-hmm.
Probably made some mistakes along the way, but you persevered, you did what it took, and you knew what your vision was of helping these clients to integrate the system. And that you had these amazing people skills that you could communicate to them in a way that they would understand and get the system and implement the system. Then you gave me another example of, and this is probably one of a trillion in the military. How many times were you given projects to do? Yes, you needed to work with your team, but now they felt that you had the skills and the knowledge and the adaptability to learn new things, to grow, that they felt you were an expert in your world and that you could communicate with these other different areas, the Navy, the military, all of the different, I'm not really
Mm-hmm.
military part of things. So
That's
I
okay.
apologize for that. But
Mm-hmm.
all of those different areas, they asked you to come to bring them together. And you took the time. So was it easy in the beginning? No. Again, let's keep it simple and think about when we ride a bike, when we do something new, we're going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
We got to look at it. We got to kind of get a little comfortable with it. And the most difficult thing is to take that one step.
Mm-hmm.
You take that one step, how do you feel?
Well, you feel better than you did the previous step. It's like working out. It's like working your muscles. You'll be sore in the beginning, and then after a couple of weeks or a couple months, depending on what exactly it is you're doing, it gets easier and you don't hurt as much, or you're not as sore. Yeah.
And what would happen if, you were with a client and you didn't connect with them? Is it a failure or is it a learning experience to find out what we could do to learn how to communicate with that particular client?
Mm-hmm. No, it would definitely be an opportunity for learning, and this again is an area that I don't know as much about, but I presume there's times when you may engage with somebody and you choose not to move forward with a coaching relationship for one reason or another. So, and that
And is
just,
that a failure?
no, that wouldn't be, because I mean, it's a numbers game. I understand a lot of stuff. I just don't put it to practice. I understand that sales is a numbers game. You
Yeah.
know, you go, 100 tries, you get 10 yeses, you're probably doing pretty good. You just have to weather the 90 people telling you that you're, telling you no or whatever. So,
So in this coaching session or coaching program that we're taking, um, it's new, it's uncomfortable. We're learning in two ways, which to me, this is the most fantastic, exciting thing is we're learning the skills and the tools to become an effective communicator, i.e. coach.
mm-hmm,
And we're learning to deal with our stuff. And one of the things that I'm learning that AJET talked about as well as Fran is that, and actually one of the other persons that I just listened to this week, they talked about as a coach, you're not going to know everything. The goal is to be one step ahead of your client.
mm-hmm,
Are we going to make mistakes? Yeah. And I can relate so much to you, Donnie, in regards to fear of failure. It held me back from doing a lot of things. Um, and it came from a place of when I felt that fear, it tightened up my body. And I felt like I was in this jail, that I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. And what I didn't realize is it was that emotion, my thought of fear versus actually naming the emotion, that held me in these shackles.
Mm-hmm.
I went, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is, in your situation, what, Donnie?
They would tell me no, or, they don't accept a proposal or something.
And does that affect you as a person?
I guess in the past, not being a sales guy, I guess I put too much into the having never done sales. Sales is going to be part of what we do, because we have to get clients. It would be a different ball game, like the computer company. If somebody's bagging the clients and turns them over to me for training, that's completely different, or at least it has been for me in the past. I don't necessarily have a negative view of sales. I guess I just don't have experience with it in a sales capacity.
And so, just like in the past, Donnie, when you didn't know something, you learned.
Mm-hmm.
When you learned it, you crushed it. And when you come from a place of, what I learned from me when I was kept myself in those shackles, I wasn't resourceful. I didn't look for the multiple different ways that I could do something, because I was stuck in my tunnel vision. And I always use this analogy as well, is if I'm open, just a small degree. So if I'm in a boat, and what if I change my perspective, like 1 degree of, you know what? I'm good enough. And if you look at that boat and you change it 1 degree, where are you in 2 years' time? That degree, you're a completely different person. You've gone in a completely different area.
Yeah.
So it's really to, and you had made a comment, it's like, well, the military is not really going to help me. And I'm like, what? I'm thinking, you gain so much, like you have so much expertise on, how to deal with, to come up with strategies, how to work with every kind of different type of, you were coaching the whole time with your, would I call it a combat team?
Yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you were the leader, which means you were the coach.
Mm-hmm.
You want people to see the benefit that they provided, the value that they added, the importance that they were. You were a coach then.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just coaching in a different avenue, just like when you were training these people on this new system, you were coaching them.
So that all goes back to experience. So what I'm seeing now, the word that's popping into the chalkboard in my head is experience. Okay. Because in all those instances, although the work was hard, it wasn't hard from a perspective of, I don't know what I'm doing. I knew exactly what I was doing. And it's just going to take experience in this to get to that level as well. And so that's something that you just have to be, that's your own consciousness, that's your own awareness that you have to deal with and understand it, and that there's a process for going through it. And maybe that wasn't quite as clear in my head as before. It's experience now. So if we back out from the experience factor, it's okay, well, what's keeping you from getting the experience? Well, there's this program, but this isn't the first program I've done or been involved in. And maybe some other ones I didn't finish it, or I quit or whatever. But I think that experience is probably a word I haven't thought about before. That sounds like it kind of goes into what we're talking here. That it seems to be the common denominator between the successful events and the unsuccessful events, right?
Exactly. Is you started, and what we forget about when we, you became an expert, and that's the key thing. You became an expert. You had to start, we all have to start from where we are. And when we don't know something, it's like, okay, what are those questions that I can ask myself so that I can become more resourceful? What are those questions that I need to ask myself so that I have a better understanding of why this is important to me? So what about coaching is important to you?
I think in a roundabout backward way, since this has been a load on my back for a number of years in the entrepreneurial arena.
Okay.
And I've been in the network marketing arena in the past, and that's a tough one.
I've been there. I understand it well.
And I love the concept. And I loved some companies, but there was just always something about it that made me feel like I couldn't approach people. I didn't want to approach people with, whatever the deal was,
Okay.
And although I loved some companies and loved some products, it just didn't feel right after the first month or so,
So the fit wasn't right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always said that if I found that company, and I'm using some products of a company now, that's what I thought I would do, is use products for a long time. And then, if I became a real believer in the products, to me, the product has to come before anything else. Because if you don't believe in that, then, I don't have, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not saying like I'm this great person of character and integrity, but if I'm going to tell some good friends of mine about something, then I got to know top to bottom that it's solid and sound. And I just never came across anything quite like that. It either cost too much money or whatever, $200 a month for vitamins is not something that my friends are going to do, but anyway. So I think that was part of I lost my train of thought from where I was talking before I talked about the marketing.
So you were talking about why. So I said, what about coaching was important to you?
Okay. So I have this may be one of my strongest desires is for me, knowing what my hurdle has been to overcome that hurdle and then go to the masses of people out there that are dealing with the same hurdle and go, hey, I know what you're going through. I've been there. I got through it. This is how I did it. Come follow me, kind of a thing. So that, to me, that's the exciting thing about coaching. But I think about this, and I've thought about this a lot since probably I joined Mind Valley maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
I've thought about, because I think a lot in my head during the day about speaking in front of people. So I'll role play. I have visions in my head of being in front of, 1,000 or 5,000 people giving a keynote or just speaking at an event or whatever. And I think about what would be the kind of things that I would talk about to a group of people that they would remember, because I've been to them, you've been to them, I've been to, I don't know, 100 of them over my life, and I've remembered some of the speakers, and some of the speakers were the best speakers in the world, and I couldn't today tell you one thing that they said back then. So I'm thinking, how do you engage an audience and give them something that they can remember? Because if you can't remember something, you can't implement it. So, but I've often thought, and I look at coaching like this. And this is me speaking reality here. This is my truth. I think everybody needs coaching, everybody on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't even finished the coaching curriculum yet, because I can't do something as well as we can do it, And I use little examples in my presentations in my head about talking about, okay, who's the greatest golfer in the world? Let's just say it's Tiger Woods. That's a singular sport. He plays golf by himself. Nobody helps him. His caddy carries his clubs and maybe gives him some direction, but he's the one that plays the game. But I guarantee you, I don't know this for sure, but I guarantee you Tiger Woods has probably got about 5 different coaches
Absolutely.
He's got a putting coach. He's got a driver coach. He's got a nutrition coach. He's got a strength coach. He's got a mental coach. So what makes us think that we can do our best in life by going about it by ourselves, you know? And it doesn't, and
Absolutely.
and in that instance, those coaches would be experts in that area. In this relationship, it's different because what you're doing is you're coaching me, you're helping me draw out the answers that I know that reside within me that I just can't see clearly. It's like listening to your voice. When I go back and listen to this and hear my voice coming out of the speaker instead of coming through my head, it sounds completely different. And so I think
Absolutely.
that's also the nature of the coaching relationship. But I think that I want to help people because I know there's tons of people out there that are just like me. And I would like to get my mind figured out, realize what it was that was holding me back, which is probably a little thing. But when you're by yourself, when you're doing this by yourself, little things can become gigantic things. And there's nobody there to
Oh,
smack you in the head and
hello.
go, hey, yep,
Did you freeze or did I?
you there. Is that better?
You, yeah, I'm not sure if you froze or I froze, but it looked like you froze.
Yeah, it said I had a little internet unstable message there for a second. Is that okay now?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I just think, you know, in this professional, I don't know what you call our coaching. I don't really want to call it a life coach. It's a coach, an executive coach, a business coach. I mean, I don't know. Some of what the John Maxwell team teaches is a little bit different from what Adjit teaches. You know, because in John Maxwell, they try to steer you away from the word or the role consulting, but that seems to be a big part of what Adjit has in his curriculum, and that's not here nor there because I think it's all the same thing. It's just a matter of what you call it.
Yeah.
But you know, so those are my thoughts on coaching. And I guess some of the fear is I've got to get more comfortable with the I don't have to be an expert or I don't have to be real knowledgeable in the field of the people that I would be working with in the future because it doesn't matter. Um, but I've got to get that's got to, it's I can say that I can hear it, I can read it, I can see it. I need to internalize that to where it's a core level belief of mine, and then it won't bother me. I hadn't got there yet, but
Yeah. And with this course, it allows you to practice in a safe environment. It
mm-hmm,
allows you to be coached in a safe environment. So this is giving you so many things. Number one, it's giving you the experience to practice as a coach.
mm-hmm,
It gives you the opportunity to know what it's like to be that person that you're going to coach, that they're sitting in front of you, vulnerable, wanting help, and trusting in you. And it's for you to realize you have so much to give, like all of your military, all of the, I mean, because that's very structured.
mm-hmm.
And there's, and again, I was a little bit surprised when you said, oh, the military experience isn't really going to help me. And I'm like, wow,
No, no, no. What I meant
that
by that
will
was
help you as a coach.
yeah, no. What I meant by that, I probably didn't phrase it right. I was trying to come up with an example of how the way you asked the question earlier, and I ended up using one at the very end. But what I meant by that comment was that that really wouldn't help this coaching session because in the military, I did everything. I never had a problem like that to have to deal with in the military because I just the military was a different thing. I didn't intend to mean that experience wouldn't help me in my coaching. I was trying to come up with an example to answer your question in terms of
Okay.
running into a problem in the military where I couldn't figure a way out or whatever, because I always did.
And that's the point that I wanted to make. You always found a way. You're
Mhm,
resourceful. And it's for you to go, hey, yeah, I am resourceful.
mhm,
I am amazing. I'm compassionate. I'm a person of service. I love my family. I love my friends. Um, I allow myself to be vulnerable. And by me being vulnerable, it allows the people that I'm with to be more vulnerable and to have deeper connections. And like for me, I'm not perfect. I'm learning as we coach along as well. And can I be asking better questions? If I knew the questions to ask, I would ask them.
Mhm.
And I know that you're going, okay, we're both in this together. My goal here is to be as compassionate, as present, um, as much of service to help you to figure out in different ways how to break through those things and empower you to have your own. And what really comes up for me is you sat down and written out all the amazing qualities you have.
You're saying, have I?
Have you?
Um, I've done a lot of things over the years. I probably haven't, I don't know if I've done anything like that recently. Probably been a while. And maybe not to that specific question, maybe ever, but
Okay, well, let's do a couple of them. So what is one thing, give me five. What are five things that you're really proud of,
proud of, define the question.
quality wise?
Quality wise, qualities, my personal qualities. When I make my mind up to do something, I do it. And that's
Okay,
good and bad. That, whether it's going to a restaurant and finding out it's closed or, whatever, when I put my mind to something, I do it. Um, Depending on what the situation is, I'm pretty disciplined. I have
so
pretty,
you have been disciplined before.
yeah,
So
I've
you
been
are
very
disciplined.
disciplined. Yeah, I have, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So and if I can just interject for a second, Donnie, what I continue to hear you say is, I'm disciplined, but I'm when I know what I want, I do it, but let's take out the buts, because I don't know if you've ever heard this before. When you use the word but, it negates what you've just said.
mhm.
So I want you to come from a place of personal love and compassion. So if you were talking to your best friend and and you heard this, where they're like, yeah, I'm disciplined, but
I think I'll turn that down. All right.
so would you be willing to play with this situation just a little bit?
Sure.
Do I have your permission?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
So what I would like you to do, Donnie, is take the word but out and say and. So I want you to just matter of fact, no emotion attached to it. What are your great qualities? If you're your friend looking at you, what are those qualities
Okay.
that you have? And the goal is, if you want to say but you can't, you have to put it with and.
Okay. I would say I'm a disciplined person. I'm a
Okay.
humble person. I'm a person of high integrity. I'm a person that values humor,
Okay.
and I love people.
Now, how do you feel saying that?
Pretty good. Probably better than I did before I looked at it like that. Let me turn
Have
this
you
ringer off now.
have you ever looked in the mirror and said, I love you? Donnie, I love you and every part of you.
Probably not. I've probably been more competitive, and I'm always working to get better. And lately things haven't been as good, although I went through those things on the list. I use the comma but on discipline because I've been very disciplined in the past. There even are some things in my life now that I'm disciplined in, and then there's others that I'm not. So overall, I probably don't have a high level of discipline like I had in the past.
So we're just going to stop that. So is it true that you've been disciplined in your life?
Yes.
Is it true that when you are passionate about something, you're disciplined?
Yes.
So would you say that you're a disciplined person?
Yes.
So how about we take out the buts and the other stories and look at what you do have? So experts, what do experts look at? When they look at themselves, do they look at the buts or do they look at what qualities they bring to the table?
I guess it's a quality because I never really thought about, like, let's take out discipline. Let's look at humble or
Okay.
humor.
Okay.
You either are or you aren't. There's really no middle ground. Now, you may not be funny all the time, but you have a sense of humor. I'm a humble person. That doesn't necessarily mean you're humble in 100% of the cases, but that's what you do. You're a humble person, or I'm a humble person, or integrity, character, courage. That's the other thing I think about. Nothing in life's 100%. Not even death and taxes, because there's people that don't pay taxes, and there's been 2 people that went to heaven that didn't die. So you can't say 100% for either one of those things. But it's a numbers game. It's you do the best you can. So you don't have to shoot for anything that's 100%.
So what if we change the perspective of, because what I'm hearing a lot from you, if I can be candid with you, Donnie, is you're really selling yourself short. That the story is, I've done that in the past, but I'm not consistent. I've been successful in the past, but I'm not good enough now. I've done this in the past, but what if we change that story to look at the positive? What have you done? And to only focus on that. Like, what would it mean to you to focus on your good qualities and what you bring to your wife's life? What you bring, not take the income out of it. If we had no money today, what is your wife grateful for you? What qualities is she's blessed that you have?
Probably a lot of what I just listed here. You might add a couple more coming from a spouse perspective, but
so what would those be?
Security, protection, vision for the future, doing things for the good of the family, the things that might not have made the top 5 list from thinking just about me, because I think there's a difference in thinking about what I think my top qualities are and then what somebody else. And I do think that's interesting too, to find out what your closest people think your qualities are, because I may not necessarily view myself, or I may have a hard time coming up with the words. As you ask me what I think about Jimmy or Sandy or whatever, it's like, oh yeah, she's a so-and-so, I can see it clearly, where a lot of times we have, and that's probably the crux to why we even are here, is because we have trouble seeing ourselves, or we see ourselves differently than other people see them a lot of times.
Yeah. And so how do you think you'd feel if you asked, say, your children, your wife, previous coworkers, good friends, ask them to write down, when they think of you, what qualities come up? And what if they came back saying, wow, he's an amazing father. He's an amazing husband. He goes the extra mile. He's so kind-hearted. He's such a hard worker. I admire him for being in the military and you know, being so disciplined. How would that make you feel?
It would make you feel good. It would make me feel good. Yeah.
And what would that do to your confidence?
That would probably improve it.
And that's one of the things that you said, that you really want to develop your confidence,
Mm-hmm.
to be that expert.
Yeah.
And I already think you are an expert. You just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you think about doing some exercise of stepping outside the box, where say you pick 10 people where you can write them a letter and say, I really respect your opinion. This is with no judgment. In fact, I actually did this. It was in the Miracle Morning, a book that I read, where it actually gave me the letter. So I can actually send it to you if you're interested. So you don't have to think about what to write. And I actually landed up sending it out to like 25 or 30 people. And this was colleagues, former managers, friends, family, people that I didn't really think we connected too well. I wanted to hear everything, what they loved about me and what they thought that I needed to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you will be, as I was, blown away at what I read.
Hmm.
I was humbled. And I really think you need to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I'm sensing from you, Donnie, is that you've got these blinders on, and that you're just really have become paralyzed in the story. And again, it's not, I'm not, it's neutral. We all have stories. And so one of the things I'm learning in a different course is we need to manage our state. The best way to do it is to be grateful. Like, what am I grateful for? What am I blessed for? And we take that for granted. You know, every breath we take, every cell in our body, everything holding us together, you know, everything that God created. I actually just finished reading this morning the book, The Greatest Miracle in the World. I don't know if you've read that book by Mendito.
I've got several of Bog's books. I know I've read The Greatest Salesman and a couple of other ones. I'm not sure. I know I have The Greatest Miracle. I can't recall it right offhand.
So I would because I was like, it happened to him. And knowing that you're a spiritual being like I am, it was like, okay, I got this. I understand what the greatest miracle of the world is.
Mm.
And it's something that you need to experience for yourself. So if you've got the book, I highly recommend taking it out and reading it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll look for it. I definitely will.
And the other thing, as I said, is, you know, if would you be open to me sending you that letter?
Yeah, that would be fine. Let me ask you this: Didn't
Yeah.
Adjut talk about something in one of our last sessions where he mentioned something like this? Is it that
Yeah, and
session,
I don't.
or I'm getting confusing it with something else? He was talking about sending an email to 3 or 4 or 5 people and asking them a question for some feedback.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is similar. And what I liked about the way this one did it, it was helping me to see the qualities that I didn't see in me,
Mm-hmm.
and but also for me to to give them permission to, what are some of the things that I need to work on?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a life-changing experience.
Good.
And that's what I just hear loud and clear, is that you're beating yourself up so much and there's no need. There's absolutely no need, because you are this phenomenal dad, this incredible husband. Yes, you might not be bringing in the income right now, but is that what a marriage is all about? Maybe we need to change our definition of what marriage is.
Well, I definitely agree, because I've been a home dad for a while. There's definitely, I don't have a problem with that part of it. There's just a point in time that when, you give yourself an order, or you tell yourself something to do, and do it. I think that's a definition of success. I think that could be the definition of discipline. Give yourself an order and follow through with it. I'm going to wake up tomorrow and go run. I'm going to, whatever the case may be, I'm going to save $50 a week. And those are good habits and disciplines to build. And I think that helps build a successful person. And then the opposite's true with, if you're telling yourself that you're going to do things and then you don't do them, whether it's because of procrastination or fear or some other things, then those are some areas that you would need to work on. So I hear you talking about, and I may say I hear you loud and clear, talking about selling myself short. And some of that may just come from, the military, where, or maybe my upbringing, where I've just kind of trained myself to be, good's not good enough. There's always something more you can do. You can always be better. I think I'm good, but I'm always driving to do more, to be better. So most of it, some of it probably comes from that. But I think that I have definitely been in the ditch for a little while in terms of the confidence, because I think I told you before, there was nothing that I couldn't do. There was nothing that I could plausibly put in my mind to do that I couldn't do. To the stupid point where, I don't care how big a guy was, if I ran into a guy somewhere, I was convinced I could kick his ass. It was just, I would figure out a way to do it, and that carried over to my persona. I'm not a big enough person to go around doing that, but I thought I could.
So, can I give you another little exercise?
Mm-hmm.
For the next week, I want you to write down all the things that you can do.
Okay, so for example, tell me, what is it? What's an example of what you're looking for there? Things I can do.
You can go for a walk. You can stand. You can
and see, some of those things I can't even do all the time.
but you can do them.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to adapt. You might not be able to do them for as long as you did before, but you can do them.
Mm-hmm.
Versus, I hear you've the continual record is, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the same as I was before. We're not the same as we were before, because we've had all of these experiences. And when it comes to addressing, the fear, like I said, I understand where you're coming from with the fear and it debilitating you, and procrastination, because they all seem to kind of be connected together. And I learned that the more energy I give these negative things,
Yeah.
the more it weighs me down.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And so, like, where in your body does this fear reside? Where do you feel it in your body, Donnie?
Probably in my head.
Okay.
And there's a relationship there, the head and the heart, maybe the gut, head and the gut. You know, it's just like you know, butterflies before you do something. You know, it's that kind of thing. Some of it's in your head, some of it's in your gut. That
Okay.
opening kickoff, you know, beginning of a sporting event when you're probably a little nervous, and then, you know, after a minute, the butterflies are gone.
And I didn't expect that analogy to come out of you. And that means you're excited. There's a part of you that's excited. And that's awesome because, oh, I'm sorry. Turn mine off. Sorry, I thought I had that off.
Mm.
When we do something that's uncomfortable, to have that excitement is wonderful because that means there's hope, there's opportunity. Whereas if you have a heavy heart, a mindfulness of, I can't, what I did in the past never worked, I'm not good enough. And we continually tell ourselves that, our heart and our head gets heavy and it gets stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so in those situations where you have a heavy heart or a heavy mind, what are you feeling at that time?
I think it depends on the situation.
So let's talk about right here, right now. When you think about the failure, the lack of confidence.
Well, most of the time there was a large part in my past, and I'm just using past as a relative term, where things that I couldn't do would have pissed me off, and that would have propelled me to do it.
Okay.
And to some extent, that may be the way it is in some areas of my life.
So what are you pissed off about?
I am. You probably are onto something when you're talking about I say I can't, because for the past year and a half it's been the worst with my back, and I have let myself, and I talked to myself about this and I just haven't gotten over it. I have let myself get down and become almost a negative Nancy. I mean, I can't get off the toilet without being in pain. I'm in pain sitting in this chair right now. And it's like that all the time. Sometimes the pain's a lot where it affects something, and then sometimes it's just a nagging little pisser of a pain to let me know it's there and it's not going away. And that's been my life for 15 years or more, and more the last year and a half.
So what's changed in the last year and a half?
I had an episode that just made it bad. I call them episodes when my back goes out. I had an episode in July of 19 that was the worst I've ever had, and that was just awful. And I've gotten better the last couple months, which is thankful, but it's still there. And it's because like a couple years ago, I could throw my back out and I'd be down for a month or two or whatever, and then I'd be okay, and then it wouldn't hurt. Then I could play basketball, I could ride a bike, I could run and swim and lift weights and do all that, and then I'd have another episode. Well, the episode that happened about a year and a half ago, that one just hasn't gone away. And so it affects everything from sex to playing with the kids to getting up and down from the couch, any seated chair, getting in and out of the car. It's like, you know, and some days it's worse than others. And so I almost feel like I'm in a torture chamber, but I've also let myself probably, not probably, get into a I can't mentality more than I should have. Now, I know I'm a Marine and I'm this big tough military guy, but this has brought me to my knees, and it's something that I can't control. I can't do anything about it. Nothing that I take seems to help. Although I did just get some CBD in the mail the other day that I'm starting to take, so I hope that'll help, but that'll take some time. So I am hopeful in that regard. But if I was to probably interview and ask everybody that's in the family, they would probably say some of the stuff that you're hearing right now, and that's not good. And if I'm the only one that can change that. I can't let I can't let the back continue to affect everything in my life, which it has in the last little bit. But I have to get out of the I can't mentality, because so much of this game is played in our head. Although I do have a physical component, I think it's made itself worse in my head because, well, I've just let it. I've tried to fight this one by myself, and I mean, I have a counselor in the VA that I talk to, but it's not like that helps a whole lot. And I am clinically depressed, but it's not like, it's all just because of my back. It's not like I'm depressed where I need medicine or anything like that. I'm bummed. I mean, there's a lot of things in my life I'd like to do that I feel limited in not being able to. And some of that fear carries over into everything. Uh, and we've talked about the fear of that in terms of me getting out and expressing myself in the community from a business perspective, because it's happened before.
So what's the worst thing let's play that scenario out. You're doing a coaching session or you're speaking in front of an audience. What if you prefaced it saying, hey, just to let you know before I start, I am, coming from a place of love, compassion, whatever your words would be. And if my back goes out, just know that I'm okay.
I'll have to make it some funny way of
Exactly.
something. If my back goes out, I'll send you the transcript later or something.
Exactly. So again, using your personality, which I'm starting to get to know. But what if you took that out of the equation that, okay, it might happen, but if the audience knows it might happen, do you think they might give you more love, more compassion,
Could be.
more support?
Yeah, I've got to get over thinking that would be admitting weakness up front, which is a problem I have. I know I have that. So, um, so that would be a tremendous boot to get me past. I'm working on my EQ as well. I have a lower EQ than I need to, or than I thought I even did. I took the EQ for one of the classes that I did before, and it was interesting, one of those things. And again, a lot of that's just from the military that's been trained into me for so long. I don't have to be empathetic to a soldier when it's time to do something really hard. He just has to do it because he's disciplined and I told him to. That's what the military is based on. That doesn't
Right.
translate too well to the family and to the business world. So, um, um, but I have gotten too much of a I can't. It's been difficult. Things have been difficult before, and I've overcome them. I've just been dealing with this for so long; it's just beating me up pretty good. So it's not that I think I can't get out of it; I just haven't yet. And it's things like this that are probably helping because I don't talk like this to anybody, or very few. I mean, even my VA counselor, I talk to him some, but he's not quite, not like this anyway. Because not knowing what the problem is they say half the battle. Well, I've got that down. I know the problem. I just don't know how to get over it. In my mind, my problem would be extremely alleviated if I didn't have to deal with my back pain. Well, that may not be reality, so I got to figure out a way to work with it. So, and that's the part that I'm not very good at or haven't been very good at so far. Because I say the word I can't 50 times a day to myself and out loud. And I've been doing that for a couple years probably. And what makes me infuriated, which nobody does it much around here anymore, is is try to help me. Oh, let me get that for you because I know you can't pick it up, or let me do this for you because I know you can't do it. Well, don't do that around me. I can do it. I'll let you know if there's something I can't do, or if there's something that I would rather you do, but don't make me feel like I'm an invalid either. So,
So and how can you word that in a loving way that we learned during our the last coaching session, the
mhm.
nonviolent communication.
Yeah. And like I said, that's not a problem with my family anymore
Yeah.
because we know about it. I probably didn't handle it the way I should have in the beginning, but everybody's good with it now. But yeah, there's definitely a better way of handling that than I probably have in the past. But some of it is just some of it is acceptance. There has to be a level of acceptance that I'm not at, and I'm not there. I bought a triathlon bike 2 years ago because I was doing triathlons, and the month before the triathlon is when my back went out. And I just had a birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I told myself yesterday, I got a new Apple Watch. Do you have an Apple Watch?
Yep. I don't have one. I have a Fitbit, but
Okay, so I got a new Apple
mine
Watch.
have the Apple Watch. They're awesome.
Got all these little health features that you can keep up with it. Nothing for my back, but just health things. I'm a geek when it comes to data like that. And so I told myself yesterday on my walk, I was doing a little walk and a little run, that when I was 60 years old in July, I was going to do the triathlon in Nashville like I did a couple years ago.
Awesome.
And that's about 2.5 years away. It's about 2 years away. It'll be 2 years from this upcoming July. So in July of 2023, I'll be 60, and I'll be doing a triathlon in July in Nashville.
Awesome.
And so that's my goal. And I gave myself a long window because it's going to take a while. And just doing that, just setting that goal in my head yesterday, this was just yesterday afternoon, made me feel so much better up here. Didn't change anything in my body, but I've got a goal that I'm going to shoot for, that I'm going to do, that triathlon. And so it's things like that are, continually going to go. I've got the answers within me. I just have lost sight of some of the stuff that I needed to be sightful of. And it's a reality that I don't have to accept failure. I don't have to accept I can't. I may have to accept that pain may never go away. It may not get any better than it is right now. And that would be akin to I lost my arm in an accident, or something else that you just actually can't change,
But what
and
can you
learn to deal
change?
with it. Well, I can change my attitude. That's the thing I need to
Your
change.
state. Absolutely.
My attitude, and that's what I have to change. And that's what I've been mad and probably resentful that this happened to me, and blah, 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 same stuff. I'd be getting on somebody's ass big time if I acted like I'm acting now, so that's what you need a coach for, a kick in the pants.
So let's get it out right now. What are all of the emotions that you've felt about this back pain?
I'm pissed.
Pissed?
I've told people, I've told myself I'd rather have a leg blown off than having an invisible thing that nobody can see, that sometimes you're okay and sometimes you're not. At least if you're missing an arm or leg, it's permanent.
So what emotion is that you're feeling?
It just makes me mad. It makes me resentful.
Mad? Resentful?
It makes me feel like I'm missing out. Not able to do the things that I used to be able to do. That's the biggest thing. Not being able to do the things that I used to do, because I had a high level and a high standard of living physically in the past, with weight training and doing all the stuff in the military. I've run marathons, run triathlons. I'm a physical person. Unfortunately, being physical and physical things has been a part of me, and that's kind of been taken away. And I'm having to deal with the void of something that was very important to me in the past to the point, and I say this sort of jokingly, but it's really no joking matter. If I'm out with my family and it comes to a self-defense situation, I'm not going to be a whole lot of help. You know, I mean, I'll be the one on the ground complaining about my back. Oh, I couldn't defend my family. So there's emotions that go into that because that's real. You
So
know.
what emotion is that?
Oh, I mean,
Let's
you all of a
acknowledge
sudden,
that emotion.
golly, I don't know what word. Not enough. Being a wimp. Not a wimp in the sense that, well, you can't do something. You know, if it came down to
Less than?
situation, less than, incapable, being a wussy, whatever. You know, being a wimp. Uh, you know, not so much being a wimp because I know what the limitation's based on. It just doesn't change the result if there came a situation, you know.
Yeah.
So I think about that. So I'm not a whole lot, but and it's
Are
things
you
like that of
angry?
just kind of being, yeah. I think angry is an appropriate word. I think
So,
pissed off and being angry are the same thing. Yeah.
okay, pissed off and angry.
Hmm. I
And
think
where are
that's
you
right.
feeling it in your body?
Right now, all over from head to toe, because that makes me mad, and
And
I
what do you
can't help it.
need? What do you need?
Mm, well, if I had to pick whatever I could pick, I'd like for the pain to go away. If that's not an option, then I need to learn to deal with it, which I haven't been very good at. Attitude
And
adjustment or learning to deal with it and focus on the things that I can and to not worry about the things that I can't control.
awesome. Donnie, how do you feel about finally acknowledging and speaking out your truth of how this has made you feel?
I feel good. I haven't done that before. Um, it doesn't necessarily change anything now. It may make me feel a lot better as as I continue to watch this, and it may make me feel better, you know, tonight. But there is a certain relief of a number of things, not just the because I've
So
known what
what's the
those
relief?
emotions are. I've known what those emotions are. I just maybe not have not verbalized them, but I've known them internally to myself. So doesn't that's not a surprise, or that's not, you know, that's not a monumental breakthrough. I already had all that, and I was aware of them. The things that I'm maybe wasn't quite so aware of is this. You know, we talked about how many times I probably say the word "I can't" during a day. I can't do that, and in understanding that it's really in your attitude, because what's that old saying that, you know, life is uh, 95, what is it, 95% what happens to you and 5% how you handle it. Oh, or maybe what's important is not what happens to you but how you handle what happens to you, something
Yeah.
along that line. So the important thing's not what has happened to me, whatever it is. It could be someone being raped, or it could be somebody suffering from a debilitating back injury like I have. That's not the issue. The issue is what are you going to do about it, you know? Or how did I just phrase that? It's not what you do. It's not what happens to you. It's how you handle what happens to you. So
Yeah.
you can be a victim, or you can rise above being a victim. And I probably have been being a victim of my own making for too long.
And you deserve much better.
And my family does. Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been, and thank you so much, Donnie, for being vulnerable, for putting your heart on the table, and for putting a voice to the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's huge. And you need to commend yourself for that.
This was this was interesting. This was a lot more than I thought it would be. Um, coming out of me, you drawing it out, whatever, just talking about it. I could see where a psychiatrist is is helpful to certain people, just getting them to talk about stuff, you know. And in a
Yeah.
certain way, it seems like the coaching is that, you know, we're just not licensed. We're kind of like psychiatrists or psychologists, whatever, getting people to talk about
Yeah.
their situation. Because that's where the
And
answers can rely. But
and we're unlocking their stories,
mhm,
and we're being neutral, we're being non-judgmental, this
yeah.
safe environment. Um, and we're our goal is to help empower that person.
Hmm.
And and that's by acknowledging and accepting certain situations and saying, okay, what do I control? And like you've realized, it's like, okay. And with this coaching session is I was mirroring back to you the things that you were saying to me, but now you could hear it from somebody else's perspective.
Hmm.
And so that's and when you said I'm not disciplined, I'm like, you are disciplined. You have been disciplined. Maybe not in every area of your life. And I want you to focus on where you have been disciplined. And when you wrote down your goal of what you would do and that you would do this triathlon by July of 2020, your 60th birthday, you look empowered.
I sounded
It's
it.
like,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, your whole persona changed.
Hmm.
So there's going to be some obstacles that come up. And how are you mentally going to control your state? So I and as we talked about before, what I hear loud and clear is that you just need to value you and realize what you can do and the amazing person that other people see that you are.
Hmm.
So if you're okay with it, I would highly recommend, say, well, tell me what would work for you. Would it be, say, every day for the next 7 days, writing down 3 new qualities about yourself? Would that be doable, Donnie?
What do you mean by qualities?
That you're
Characteristics?
humble, that you're genuine, that you're loving, um, that you're disciplined, that you're all of those type of qualities, but they have to be different. Because the goal is for you to realize all of the amazing qualities you have.
Okay.
And then to also send that letter out to whoever you determine. But I'll send you this letter just because I love the way they worded it, where
Hmm.
it gave them permission that you were not going to judge what they said, that you wouldn't get angry, that you were going to be neutral, that it was just an exercise for you to learn how people see you.
Okay. That'd be
Good
good.
and the not so good. Because that's the only way we get better is knowing how being perceived.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it's also important for you to be able to see how you perceive you.
Yeah, I agree.
But more importantly, let's perceive the good things.
Yeah.
And would you be able to write down what you're grateful for? And I want this to be like not a, oh my God, this is a big work project. But one of the things that really has changed my life is every day I write in a journal. And when I go for a walk, I always say, I am so happy and grateful for.
Mhm.
So an example might be, I'm so happy and grateful for my back pain because it has allowed me to stay home and to be able to really connect with my children in a way that I would never have been able to do if I continued to be in the military. Would that sound true?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've learned to do, is really lean into the personal compassion, and to really be grateful. Like God has made us into this amazing human being, and it's our choice, which is some of the things that you'll read in that book, the Greatest Miracle in the World. It's our choices. And I really feel that by you just turning your perspective around, of writing down and catching yourself when you say I can't, you have to come up with something that I can.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you think you'd feel, Donnie, sorry, if now you heard yourself say, I can't, nope, change, cancel, I can do this. Or when you say, but, you're like, and I'm this. And I see these amazing qualities. How is that? Do you think, would you feel confident about you?
I think so, sure. I think that's a natural, it may take a little time. Obviously, it's something that
Yeah.
needs to be habitual and build and establish a base and a foundation. But, there are people that we've all known that tend to be that way, like everything is always good. And then there's people we know that like everything never works out for them, and some of it's natural for some people. And then there's people like me that I maybe either have to work for it, or, it changes over time due to circumstances or whatnot. So, learning how to deal with it is a skill, as opposed to something being maybe a natural trait that someone has that they've never really thought about or had to work at. That's just the way they are. So, for me, it's probably not the way I am. That's a learnable, trainable skill, attitude, quality, whatever you would call it. But I think that's definitely, and I haven't been consistent with it, but I've done some things like that in the past, just haven't been consistent. One of the things, this is going to sound strange, and you can relate to this from our Catholic background, but I'm in a men's group, and, early on they wanted, to pray for me. I've had healings prayed for me and everything. And I finally told them, I'm like, guys, I don't feel like I want a miracle. I don't want to be healed. Why would he heal me? I had this, this doubt about, so I turned it around, and then I did this for a long time, and I probably need to get back to doing it. But every time my back would hurt, I would just say, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you for my healing, Lord. Thank you for my healing. And I would put it into the future tense, but it would acknowledge that exercise, or it wasn't an exercise. That was a way of me acknowledging what he did, the pain that he went through for me, and that I'm only going to be able to handle this with his help. Maybe I don't. Maybe he doesn't want me to be pain free, and that's fine. But I need to learn from it, which I've been up and down. Sometimes I've learned from it, and then it just keeps dragging on, and then I get pissed, and then I kind of get down in the slumps, and then it'll be like, okay, let's just focus. Like after this call, things are going back, tending upward. But I did that for a while, probably a couple of months, and I got out of the habit of doing it. But that kept my focus on Jesus and the cross. And I've told myself 100 times, if this is my cross to bear, then so be it. Help me to do that, as opposed to, just wallowing in your own little pity party and not turning it into anything. And so I don't want to pray for a healing. I want to pray for God's will to be done, and for me to have the courage to do His will. That's, to me, the prayer. I try not to pray. We didn't do this with our kids. We had the situation with the fourth kid, which was a medical situation. And you know, we just prayed, you know, Lord, I'm not praying for a healthy baby. I want you to prepare me for whatever you want me to have, you know. And, you know, he's fine. He had complications being born. He actually had complications in utero where Amy had a surgery at 22 weeks old to put a catheter in because his internal plumbing wasn't working. So when he was born, he had a catheter sticking out of his lower abdomen and had had a kidney removed when he was 2 years old. It was a very traumatic situation. And that was the fourth kid. But me and Amy were strong. We just prayed, you know, and that tends to be my prayer because I've read enough of the Bible to know everything is in God's timing, and it's what He wills to be done, not what I want to be done. So sometimes I feel guilty for praying for something that's for me, praying for somebody to be healed. You know, I tend to pray for, you know, Lord, help me to deal with, give me the courage, give me all that kind of stuff to handle what is in front of me, what you're putting in my life, not for me to have a, you know, rosy and peachy life, you know, make everything work out, heal everybody and make everybody happy and give everybody plenty of money. No, that's just not the way I think it should be. I think it should
And
be, you know,
and if it
like
did
that.
turn out that way where everybody was healed, everybody was happy, everybody had, would there be anything wrong with that?
No, there wouldn't be anything wrong with it, but you know, I think, you know, again, I come from a pretty tough background from coaching and military and sports where, you know, usually it goes to the hardest worker, you know. You know, if you can't, I just read something today. I was reading an article about a guy, the football player that passed away that went to my college, and he ended up making it to the NFL Hall of Fame, but he started out as a walk-on in college. Uh, and one of his comments was where he lacked talent, he made up for it in work. You weren't going to outwork him. He may not have been the most talented person on the field, but he was ferocious, relentless. You know, you weren't going to outwork him. He had all these qualities that had nothing to do with talent. And in his case, he was talented, but all those other qualities added to his talent. And now, unfortunately, he passed away last week, but he made it to the NFL Hall of Fame. So those are the kind of things I think about. But, you know, if I pray for a miracle, if I pray for somebody to get well and it doesn't happen, what happens? You know, Lord, you got the situation. Your will be done. That's in our Father. Your will be done. Help me to be in line with your will. And if your will is
And the
that my
thing
back
is,
gets healed, that's awesome. If it's not, then that's awesome too.
and it's interesting that maybe it's not the miracle of the back healing, maybe it's a miracle of something else in that person's life that you're praying for that they got that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's miracles happening all the time around us.
Oh yeah.
This is a miracle for you and
Mm-hmm.
I to be at this place at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
God put us together. And so this is another thing that I do um, that I just incorporate into my walk. And when I wake up every morning, it's like, I need your help in regards to how can I serve?
Mm-hmm.
I ask for your help and your guidance. Like with this session today, it's like, please show me compassion, help me to be an effective listener, help me to be present, help me to be non-judgmental and neutral, and help me to help Donnie have his ahas that he needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay if it's not perfect or textbook, which I'm sure this wasn't. It doesn't matter how we end up. It's, you know, did we reach the goal of, do you feel empowered? Do you have some action steps that you can do that will help you to take that step, that action to get out of that rabbit hole that's been
Mm-hmm.
spiraling for way too long, so
I
that
think
you can
so.
build your confidence?
I definitely think so. This has been a great session. I still have to, it's going to be a slow work dealing. I mean, I've dealt with the pain. It's going to be a slow work dealing with it better. It's not like I'm going to jump up from this chair and, you know,
No, absolutely.
it's going to be a process, and it's a little bit complicated. You know, we unpacked, or we started looking at a lot of things today. There's a lot of areas that need, there's a lot of areas that are influencing this. So it's not just one button I can push, but it's been super helpful. But at least I think I have a better understanding of what it's all related to. And it really boils down to, you know, it's, you know, Bob Proctor wrote a great white paper on decision. You know, it's just a decision. It can be just like that. Like, you know
Yeah.
what? I decided right now that I'm not going to be a victim anymore, that I'm going to have the best attitude possible, that I'm never going to say the words "I can't" ever again. And if I just did 3 things like that every day, just tell myself those 3 things every day. I'm no longer a victim. I've got a great attitude, and I'm not saying the words "I can't." And just like doing push-ups, you know, you do 10 push-ups a day. In 3 months, you can do 50. And then in a year, you can do 100. Just keep building on it. And that hasn't been the way it's been the past. I have been my own victim. I've been my own pity party, and it sucks. And, you know, I need to get the emotions out of it, because emotions are probably not driving fruitful, you know, maneuvering or fruitful, you know, improvement. I do agree there's times for emotions. I'm a passionate person about things, and that's important. But I think if you don't watch the negative effect of them, then after a while you're doing it, you don't even know you're doing it.
So a few things, Donnie. Number one, amazing self-awareness. And emotions, we need to give them a name. We need to acknowledge them. When we acknowledge them, they disappear. They don't consume our lives. And I got goosebumps when you were reading off what you were going to do, that you were going to turn "I can't" into "I can," that you were choosing to be empowered versus being a victim, that you were choosing life. Like, wow.
Isn't this incredible? Because this is this is incredible, because this doesn't happen without this conversation.
And all I did, Donnie, is I asked questions.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
So just to summarize, what are the action steps? Because one of the things that you wanted to accomplish was not to be a procrastinator. Yeah. So what are 3 actions you're going to do on a daily basis between now and the next time we chat?
You're talking about the 3 action items that we talked about, or something different?
Yeah, whatever you think is manageable and doable. So what are those things that you will implement on a daily basis? Okay,
so there's 3 things, and then there's some things that we got to figure out. Okay. I'm going to do on it between now and the next call. Yeah. And let's discuss how we continue on. Yeah. We can do that at the end, but yeah, 3 qualities, 3 different qualities each day that I possess. Self-awareness, send out the letter, and I wrote 10 people, and then every day write down 3 things that I'm grateful for.
Awesome.
So the things that I have started doing, and I'm using this time here to do it. I have been a ultra organized person in the past.
Okay.
And over the last couple of years, it hadn't quite worked out like that. And I've got to change one of the downstairs bedrooms into an office, because right now I'm in my bedroom, as you can probably see, and I really need an office. So I'm I told my wife by the end of the weekend coming up, I'll have converted and moved everything to the downstairs office. And then I got a place I can go to do my work. I can go do my Zooms down there. I can go down there and I can be organized because my mind follows that. And right now it's a bit of a clutter. Um, but I have set up, I've got some routines that I'm building into. I've been okay with them. I got to get better. Nobody's in school right now, so I changed my watch from a 6 a.m. wake up to a 7 a.m. wake up because it wakes up the boss lady if I get up too early, which I would rather do. Once school gets back in session, that'll be helpful. But I wrote out a little plan last week, and with Christmas and everything, I really just hadn't had a chance to implement it. Where I've blocked out, I don't get too regimented with it, but I say wake up at 6, for an hour. I got my coffee and my spiritual time, and then I got a 30-minute break. I try to break the day up into maybe 4 different blocks and say, okay, this is a fitness block, this is a ever coach block, this is a John Maxwell block, and then during those couple of hours I spend time working on whatever's requisite for me there, and then maybe have a miscellaneous block, but that's the way I
Like fun.
used to approach the military that way. Look, you got 2 big blocks, afternoon and morning. What do you want to get accomplished? It take 2 or 3 hours. Don't get super regimented where you don't have any flexibility at all, but and then make a plan and stick to it.
Yeah.
The best
And
plans that have to be adhered to, or they're not worth anything.
what I find helpful, so because I do the blocks as well, it's what's my intent for this block? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I plan to accomplish in this block?
Okay. So instead of saying what you're going to do, say what you intend to do.
What's my intention? So for this block, what's my intention? And then write down 3 things that you will accomplish during that time. You might have 10. I want you to only focus on the top 3.
Yeah.
That if you get those 3 things done, awesome. And then what action you need to take on each of those 3 areas.
Mm-hmm. So by using the word intention, that's almost a play. I've got something scheduled in my calendar, and you can view it either as I did it or I didn't do it. And then if you didn't do it, then you're having to make up doing it, which may shove something else out of the second block, that you had put in. So when you say the word intention, you're not giving yourself an out, but I think it more properly is framing what you intend to do, because you don't know what you're going to do until you do it. So by using that simple word intention, I think that makes a little head play on how you approach it. And if you don't get it done today, then you simply just move it to the next block for that category, and you do it tomorrow or Wednesday or however you do your blocks, or my blocks. That's how I look at it. Yeah, that's good.
And then by chunking it down to say, okay, what's the most important thing? Like write down, okay, these 3 things need to be done. Okay, of these 3 things, what's the most important that I need to do? Mm-hmm. And to focus on that and take immediate action. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know about you, but when I take action, I feel confident, I feel accomplished. It's like, yeah, I did something today. Mm-hmm. And that's how we build that muscle.
So you're familiar with the retired Navy admiral that wrote a book called Make My Bed, something like that. And he basically boiled down to, in the military, you learn to make your bed, but he approached it from a different point. He's like, I view that as my first goal of the day, and I accomplished it. So I've already accomplished my first goal of the day by making my bed. He set an intention. He wrote a whole book about it. Got very, very good circulation with it. So that's interesting. Build on that.
Yeah, and it's setting little intentions. Like that's why I get up and do a miracle morning. And I find that if I go for a walk, and I've played around with it in the last couple of years, but but I find that if I turn on my alarm, I get up, I make the bed, brush my teeth, put on my clothes, and I'm out the door. And when I'm out the door, the first thing I do is, how can, like, thank you, thank you, thank you for this amazing day. And I just take deep breaths in and just kind of do a meditative walk. I'm just breathing in. That's where I do like my gratitude, but I also write down what I'm grateful for afterwards. But it's just like, what am I grateful for? It's like, oh my God, like look at the moon, how it just lightens up my, the morning, or the crispness of the air, or look at that flower, or, oh, I hear the bird. It gets me out of my head and gets me into the now. And then I always am connecting. I'm connecting to source, to God. How, show me the way. How can I be, whatever my goal is for that day, how can I be more compassionate? How can I be of service? How can I add value? How can I be more loving? Whatever that is for you that day. And then I picture my day and how it's going to go, and the connections with the people. And then I do 10 minutes of reading of a book that I'm reading, because I used to think I'd have to sit down and read a whole book, and then I just wouldn't read anything. So I put a time in my miracle morning when I'm done my walk, I get home, 10 minutes for reading, 10 minutes for journaling, where I write down what I'm grateful for, but also what would make today great. And what I'm learning when I do the what would make today great, it's not for me to get this done or that done. It's for me to always be in gratitude throughout the day, for me always to be connected and present, for me to be an effective listener and a communicator. And it's now the qualities that I want to be, for me to be the person that I want to live. So, I do that. I do some exercises. I do some, read over some affirmations. So it evolves. And that's, I got that Miracle Morning, the book.
Who wrote that book?
Hal Allred.
Yeah. He was he was in an automobile wreck or something.
Yes.
Almost died.
And actually he just did a video where he actually almost died. He was given like weeks to live because of a cancer that he developed. He beat it.
Oh, wow. So I'm familiar with his, it's been some years, but I think I have heard of that and kind of familiar with his story.
Yeah. His movie was absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. About how he, vulnerable, and it's like, he really, tried to come from a place of gratitude and gratefulness for, and to, be the best he could. It's like, okay, I might be in this wheelchair for the rest of my life. I'm going to be the happiest, most grateful, most optimistic person I can be in a wheelchair. When he had cancer, I'm going to be the most optimistic, the most loving, the most grateful person that I can be, who I am right now. And it's just absolutely miraculous.
Wow, that's cool.
Anyways, I'm just like, wow, this is 2 hours. It's been incredible.
Oh yeah, we've been going.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a little email of what we talked about. And when you do those three, this may be helpful. Let me know if this is a good thing for accountability for you, but to send me the 3 qualities that you've come up with every day.
Okay. All right. You want to do this on email or some other platform?
Email's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll put that in the email as well. So you can
make sure you send it from your personal email. That way.
Yes. Yeah.
Distinguish from it. Okay. So
then I'll just recap in the email about the 3 qualities, new ones that you're going to get. I'll send you the letter from the Miracle Morning book that you can send out to your 10 people, and give them a timeline, like by 10 days or 2 weeks, because if they haven't done it in that period of time, they're not going to do it. And be okay with if they choose not to do it. Respect it. You know, it has nothing to do with you. It just they might be really busy, or, you know, that's their story. All you can control is your story.
Yeah.
And then 3 things that you're happy and grateful for. And they
Yeah.
have to be new things.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't be the same things every day.
Yeah.
All right.
And then turning the I can't into I can, turning the victim into empowerment. Is that the right word for you?
Yep. I didn't write empowerment, but yeah.
And then what was there was 3 of them.
Attitude.
Oh, right. That it could be, I have an attitude of gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All righty.
Pretty good. Okay, my question would be, do you want
Yes.
to flip this for next week, or do you want to stay on this for a couple of weeks and maybe try to get through, even if it's 4 weeks? I don't know. Because I mean, we want to do each other, but I almost feel like let's stay in this role for a couple of more sessions to flesh it out instead of jumping back and forth. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Is this day and time okay for you? Because
So this is Monday at Monday at 1 won't work when I'm working, but Monday at 3 my time, which is 4 your time, will that work?
Yes.
Okay.
So Mondays, 4
at 4 o'clock
Central,
your time.
At 4 Central. All right. I'll send you an email. After you send me yours, make sure I'm using the right one with a Zoom link, and we can put it on the calendar and stuff.
Perfect.
From there.
And then
good.
we'll do 4 sessions, like another 4 sessions or another 3 sessions.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. You want to stick with, it doesn't matter. I mean, we got plenty of time to work with each other, you know?
Yeah, we'll say like 3-4 sessions.
Yeah.
And then that's when we can flip, where then I think you'll feel also more comfortable being the coach.
I agree. Yeah,
okay.
Super helpful. Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Great. I love to see that smiling face.
Great
and
session.
That little sparkle in your eye that's come out.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. That was very useful. Sorry it went so long, but
this is what was meant to be.
Super, super helpful. Thank you. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. And I appreciate you. Thank you for being vulnerable and having all that self-awareness.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks. I learned a tremendous amount. I look forward to the next one.
Okay. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thanks. You too, Link. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye, Noreen. Bye.
Bye, Donnie.